What's up, players? Welcome to episode number 85 of Ready Press Play, your weekly source for everything that's new and exciting in the world of video games. Every Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific or 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll discuss the top news of the week, notable releases on our platforms while we're playing, big topics of the industry, and the games we love. If you want to write anything to Brett in the show, go to ReadyPlayNetwork.com or hit us up at ReadyPressPlay on Twitter and TikTok. No matter where you found us, please subscribe to the feed so you can get every new show directly to your device as soon as it posts. And if you like it, please leave us a nice review. This is August 27th, 2021. I'm your host, Daniel Lima, and I'm joined today, as always, by my co host, Mr. Louis Minchaco.
You know, Dan, after how many episodes of like doing video, like was it 24, 25 episodes of doing video, all the live
Yeah.
streams that we've been doing, RPM going on video, I finally decided to buy a ring light.
Oh, okay.
That's why it looks
So
so good.
that's why. Okay, interesting. I'm the kind of person that people are always making those jokes with me, like in I don't know if we say this in English actually, but we do in Portuguese. Like, oh, if there was a snake there, it would have bit you, kind of thing. Because I can have something right in front of my face and not notice it. But now that you mention it, yeah, you're looking pretty good. I can see the shine, in your face.
Oh man, I feel like I got
So.
some oil in my forehead because I can see like the ring. I can see the ring a little bit on here, and I'm like, oh man, come on. But yeah, no, it
No,
looks.
you're good,
I
Lewis.
look almost like a DSLR, and it's kind of freaking me out. I'm like looking at myself right now, and it's just like, oh man, whatever.
Now, perhaps the next step is for you to get some nice bookshelves like behind you like that, and put all your games in there. I know you have one; it's just pretty far.
I know, yeah. I really, one of these days, I'm gonna have this like, I'm gonna have Melee playing in the background. I'm gonna have like CPUs fighting each other at like 99 stocks or whatever, so that way
That
it
would be
can just be
cool.
like in like the background as like sort of like little texture or something. I don't know.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, dude, how are you doing? We haven't done this in 2 weeks now. We pre-recorded episode number 84 that dropped on all podcast feeds and on the Level One Gaming YouTube channel as well. So I hope you all watched it and enjoyed us discussing our favorite games from the 1990s. But we did that so that Lewis and I could kind of have a week off from doing the show. Did you enjoy your week off, Lewis?
I most certainly did, and I actually, did something that I've never done before, and that's actually play a game. What's kind of
Yeah, for
interesting is I actually played the game during my time when we would normally record. So I actually
right.
utilized our off time to play something. So
So you're so dedicated to your like productive time that not having that in, you just had to fill it with something else that would be useful for it anyway. Does that make sense?
I'm not entirely convinced of that being the case. I was so looking forward to 12 minutes so much that I had to play it on launch
Yes.
day. So yeah.
You know what? We were gonna get to 12 minutes later in the show, but what if we scrap the whole doc and we just talk about it right now? You
Yeah,
want to do
let's do
that?
it. You know what? I got it queued up here. We have not done that sound effect in a minute, I would say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, 12 minutes. The game that with voices of from Daisy Ridley, Willem Dafoe, and James McAvoy that Lewis and I have been talking about for a while. Indie game, time loop. You play as a husband having a night like a nice like dinner date night at home with his wife, and then this all this stuff starts happening, and then after you play the game for about 12 minutes or in game time 12 minutes, it resets and it just keeps resetting. And you got to figure out what's going on, how to break out of the loop, and etc. The game finally came out last week. I played it. Lewis played it, but I should start by putting this out there. I have not wrote credits in this game yet. In fact, Lewis and I were chatting about it. He gave me some tips that I want to implement on the next time I go play it. I just haven't had the time, unfortunately, since we last talked. So I'm still in the same boat where I've played the game for about like somewhere between 2 or 3 hours. It feels like I feel like I've done a lot, but I still have not found like a proper ending. I'm still constantly in the time loop.
Okay, okay. Well, yeah. So I was frustrated. Like I played the game for like a good five hours or so.
Hmm.
But like I think like 2 or 3 of those hours, I was like literally doing the exact same thing. I was making zero progress, and I couldn't figure out what to do.
Right.
So I just broke down and looked it up. So, and I didn't really like looked it up all the way per se. Like I didn't see the cutscenes or I didn't see like the spoilers. I just sort of like looked up what to do, and then I took it from there. You know, what I'm saying? So I
Right.
didn't know
Like,
what was
well,
coming. I just knew what to
yeah.
do to get to where more dialogue branches open up, and then I just sort of
Yeah.
took it from there.
No, that makes sense. You at some points in this game, it feels like you make some breakthroughs, and you're like, oh, I figure out what the next thing I got to do, and then you do that, but then eventually you hit a
Yeah,
wall. Like, okay, like, yeah,
constantly.
I feels it feels like I've gotten everything I could out of this like particular branch of the tree here. So what do I do now? And then you gotta like that's when it's like the most difficult. And I was playing it, and Leah was watching me play it, and she was very like engaged and like interested. So she kept like she also helped me figure some things out. Like, oh, what if you did this instead, or what if you did that? I think that kind of helped me not get too frustrated. So I have not gotten frustrated to the point yet where I was going to look up something, but I did eventually hit a little bit of a wall, which was what made me stop playing. And I was talking to Lewis about it. He was like, "Oh, like you just casually mentioned something." I was like, "Oh shit, I haven't tried that." So that kind of revealed something else I can do still for my next playthrough. Um, but before we get into more like the story stuff, which we're not gonna spoil today.
No.
I do want to ask like, what do you think of the game in other aspects? Because the first thing that stood out to me when I started playing this game, and it was a negative actually, unfortunately, despite the fact that I was very excited for it, is that I hated the controls. Like I just felt like this game felt so unnatural to control on an Xbox controller. It feels like a game that was built for PC.
Yes. It is a point and
Yeah.
click adventure, so you're supposed to click your cursor where you want them to move.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't unnatural because I played point and click adventures like damn, like Fit Grim Fandango, which just
Or
tanks
the
you, and
Broken
also
Age,
Broken
right? You're
Age.
probably thinking of,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I played point and click adventures, and they are very like obtuse. Like that's kind of like the like a pillar of the genre is to be
Hmm.
very like heady when it comes to like combinations of items or things that you need to do or say or whatever. And so
Yeah.
it's almost kind of like almost with every single point and click adventure I've ever played, I've always had to use walkthroughs. With one like there was I will say with Grim Fandango like I learned the language of Grim Fandango so, like pretty well that I actually like I leaned off of the walkthrough because I was able to figure it out because I started learning the game's logic, and that's kind of what point and click adventures have is they have like their own internal logic that you're supposed to like come to. You know, that's
Yeah, I just from from a control perspective, I just couldn't help but wish that I could just move my character freely with the analog stick. The whole like putting a pointer somewhere and clicking for him to move there in a console game felt pretty unnatural to me. Maybe I never played games like that in on console. I've always played them on PC. It just feels like this game would be so much easier to play like with the mouse and keyboard, especially in a situation where you may sometimes you have to like get going on in your inventory and grab an item like really quick to use for something or whatever.
mm.
And that would be much easier to do.
And you didn't just use the left bumper or the right bumper to pull it up or the D-pad.
Oh, see, well, you can do the D-pad, but then you still got to use the analog stick to move the cursor to get to the item you want, don't you?
Yes, but when you
Yeah,
pull up the menu, it freezes time, so it doesn't count against you.
good point. Good point. I had not. I might be making it seem like more of a problem than it actually is because of that. It just annoyed me a
But
little
you
bit.
know
Didn't
what? I'll
feel.
give you credit. I mean, I kind of do. I would have liked to have seen a like an options where you can remap the controls, where on the
Mhm.
left stick you can move freely in 360 degrees, like wherever you want to go,
Yeah.
and then the right stick can be like where the cursor is. So if you want to like pick up a cup of water, then you can just hover at it and then click A, and then that way you have
Yeah.
both sets of
I
controls
wish I
set.
had what I consider like more proper like third person action like console controls. But it's a different type of game, so I understand it's supposed to be a little bit more methodical, a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit slower. Um but the other thing that then I noticed in the game is that it's kind of janky. Like I don't know if you experienced this, but
A lot of
The
clipping
game's
through walls and stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a lot of like animations that get like interrupted. There's a lot of like the characters walking through each other or walking through walls and stuff like that. So like they're just from like a collision perspective, it felt janky. It felt like it didn't have the level of polish that you would hope you would get from maybe like a higher budget game or a higher end game.
yeah.
Um, and
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 not to
then
mention that this game was in development for so long, I would have hoped that they would have retooled
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. And then the other thing too is that I felt like a little bit of the jank made through in the dialogue as well, in a very particular sense, which is that sometimes like you're in the middle of a sentence and then the dialogue gets broken because there's another event, and the way that things kind of get together doesn't really make sense. Like, I wish I had a like a good example of this,
It
but
happened to me too.
yeah, like there were like a few like weird instances where it's like the wife is just kind of stuck in a loop that doesn't really make sense for what's going on around her right now or something along those lines. So it looks to me, it looked like this game could have used. I don't know if it's time because it already took so long to come out, but maybe could have used a little bit more resources working on it. You know, like a little bit
Wasn't
more
this using
people,
Unity?
more QA. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, like yeah, I use like to me resources mean people,
yeah.
right? Like
But like I was
it
thinking, like if it was an
feels
engine problem, but if it's Unity, so it's not an engine problem. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. It just had a certain level of jank that I wish was not there. I wish had been kind of ironed out. However, so negatives out of the way. Um Aside from like the indie game like jankiness that it has, I do think that this game is able to grab you in a way that grabbed me really quickly.
yes.
And
I was gonna
I
say that as a
was
positive. The game demos really well.
Yeah, I had a hard time putting it down. Like once I got in and I was past the kind of like initial like tutorial in the first cycle, I was constantly like, "Oh, okay. Now I want to try to do this. Now I want to try to do that. Now I want to try to do this. Now I want to try to do that." And then like you every time you find something new, it opens this array of possibilities of what you could, possibly do. Like at some point you find that there's sleeping pills in the bedroom, and then you go like, oh, what if I use them to do this, or what if I use them to do that? And then like there's a knife that I found pretty early on. I was like, okay, what happens if I grab the knife and I try to stab the guy, like the cop? What if I try to stab myself? What if I try to stab the wife? Like, and I'm basically just doing these experiments, like even at times like doing things that don't necessarily make sense, just to see um there what kind of outcome that can lead to. And there are occasional times where you hope it will lead somewhere and it leads nowhere. But whenever it does lead somewhere and you find new information and you get to progress on your understanding of the story, I have found it to be satisfying. So the game loop itself is really cool. And I do find that this game like scratched an itch in me gameplay wise that had not been scratched in a while. So I do really enjoy it so far.
Yeah, I agree. The game definitely like once a good mystery is going on, you kind of sort of want to see it through. It almost has like that OCD in you where you want to see it through, and you want to know the answers to the questions that are being posed and stuff like that. Like, why is this guy in a loop? How do you break out of it? What's
Hmm.
going on? What's the deal with this cop? And what's kind of interesting is like there could have been a cop out, by the way. Like there is a
Hmm.
faux ending that you can get to in the game where it's happily ever after and everyone wins and everyone walks away, and then the guy thinks he's finally breaking the loop, but then the loop resets anyways. So
Oh,
uh,
that's
that's
kind
a
of cool.
that's like a little minor spoiler, but it's like happily ever after. Psych, it's starting over again. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
you would think it was going to be over.
I was surprised at all the things that just made the loop restart. Like there were times where I felt like, oh, this must be the ending, right? Like, oh, I solved the problem. Like there was at one point it felt like I had solved the problem. I was like, oh nope, just go back to the beginning. Um, and it's interesting. Even like to be honest, when I talked to you, I wasn't sure if the game that you could even roll credits in the game. I was like, is it just like a continuous loop and until you find all the possibilities?
that would be
But
that would be a like a mind fuck, but
Well, you
yeah.
know what I was thinking of is like her story never really has a very clear ending, I'm pretty sure. Like at some point you are able to go to the credits, but like it's your choice. Like at some point they show a button that you can use to go to the credits, but you can also just keep playing if you'd like to.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's a situation where like the revelation gets presented to you, and you find out the revelation, and that way you can get up and roll credits.
yeah,
But it's like that's once you get to there, then that's it. But everything else is filler.
right, right, right. Anyway, I definitely recommend this game. I think that I think there's a good chance that this game will be in my top list for the end of the year in one way
Same.
or another. I think there's some jank there. Like from a technical standpoint, this game would probably be like if you forget like the story aspect of it, like this game would probably be like a 6.
The story
But
definitely is what the reason why you go to this game.
yeah, the story brings it up. And final question before we move on is I want to ask you, one of the standout things about this game that kept like getting talked about recently was the actors that were attached to it, right? Like Willem Dafoe, James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley. What do you think of their participation on this?
Uh, I think they were all right. Like, I really don't think they really
Hmm.
brought much of anything. As a matter of fact, it almost kind of feels like at times their line reading was just, it almost sounded like they were just collecting a paycheck at times. I don't know about you.
I wanted to say something sort of similar. I didn't think it was particularly bad, but I didn't think it was particularly
Good either. Or,
impressive either. It was like
okay.
I I, I felt like was this really here just for the marketing? Because I don't really think it. My point is like now that I've played the game, I don't think their performances or having their names attached to this really elevated this as a game.
Yeah.
I think this could have been just as good, if not better, if instead we had like professional voice actors from the gaming industry instead.
Look, all I'm saying is
Uh,
the game would have been better if it was Troy Baker, Nolan North, and Laura Bailey. Boom. You're just
like,
just get them
yeah,
on
I
there.
mean, to
They
be
do
fair,
everything
I
anyways.
yeah, to be fair, at this point, it's like I've heard those voices so much that that I'm also okay with like hearing to like listening to some new voices. But I did kind of get that feeling of like I feel like this didn't really need to be there other than marketing, and I don't necessarily think these actors are giving it their all. The other thing too is that I felt like some of the voices were almost unrecognizable, and I wouldn't know. Like Willem Dafoe is very like that's Willem Dafoe, right?
because of
But
uh because of Goblin.
yeah, he has a very iconic like voice, and it comes through in the character. In fact, like James McAvoy, he typically has a very different accent than the one he was doing for the game.
Yeah.
So
Well, I was gonna say
yeah.
like Willem Dafoe is probably like the best of the three leads as far as his voice acting because
Hmm.
he has previous voice acting experience in general, not just because of Beyond Two Souls, but his voice is iconic
Hmm.
in general. So I'm pretty sure he's done other voices in other games before. By the way, if not at least for like the Spider-Man license games that he had to do and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So there's always that, and but yeah, like I said, it was just all right. It was serviceable, and it almost definitely at times it definitely feels like this is like one of those student like project kind of games,
Yeah.
a little bit. And I don't say that in like in a mean or malicious way kind of thing. I'm just saying it sort of feels like an experiment more so
Yes.
than a fully realized product.
No, I 100% agree. And I'm surprised that they were able to put that much budget on getting those voice actors and not in polishing the game. So I can't help but think of what the game could have been had they distributed their money a little bit differently, maybe given this, cheaper voice actors, but then a little bit more development effort. But I don't know. Maybe this game just had to be out and just had to be this way. So,
Yeah.
um,
I feel like I want to say something about like the game in general. Like the game definitely frustrates me or frustrated me a lot. I would say
mhm,
like whenever I got to the part where I was hitting walls and stuff like that, it definitely makes me want to just throw my controller down and just say F this game. Like I
mhm,
was feeling that way a lot, and so I'm glad that walkthroughs are a thing. I could not imagine how if I were like a reviewer, pre-release reviewer,
mm,
and having no resources to like figure it out. I'm like, well, fuck, I need to figure it out. That kind of
yeah.
thing. But other than that, I mean, the story definitely is interesting, and I would just to add to the point about the faux happy ending. Like, that could have been a cop out. That could have been a way for you to end the game, but then you sort of have to keep going with it, and then
Hmm.
uncover more revelations that just sort of like flip everything on its head. And yeah, I think that's very it's very interesting that they decided to do that instead of sort of teeing you up for an easy layup, so to speak.
Hmm. Cool, cool, cool. All right, Lewis, let's move on to our next segment then.
All right.
And we're on to our news and topics of discussion. And Lewis, I actually think we kind of picked a good week to have off, which I feel like we often do that, don't we? Maybe not. I don't
No.
remember. Um, we the week that we missed, I feel like nothing big really happened. But then this week we had some interesting stuff happen that we're going to be talking about today. And the main one is that Gamescom happened, right? Like Gamescom digitally has happened. We had two major conferences, I would say, which is that we had Opening Night Live with Jeff Keighley, and we had an Xbox conference, which actually happened before Opening Night Live, which is a little interesting. And then I think there's some other stuff. I think there's a PC Gamer stuff one as well, but we won't be covering that. We'll mostly be going through here this article from The Verge, the biggest trailers and announcements from Gamescom Opening Night Live, supported by Andrew Webster. Lewis, first, let me just ask you: did you watch this, and what did you think of it?
So I ended up watching it live just because I
Mm,
was able to tune in while working, and I was genuinely surprised in like both good and bad.
mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if the article's going to cover this, but during opening night live they gave awards to like games, like the best PlayStation game and the best Nintendo game. Did you see the awards or not?
No, so I actually I tried to watch this after the fact. I didn't watch it live, and I watched the first like 45 minutes of it, I think,
Uh
or
oh.
I watched the beginning of it. I got the first like few big announcements, but then I didn't finish watching it. I didn't see any awards.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, did they give out an award? Okay, so they started giving out like awards to like the best Xbox game of 2021, and they gave it
Hmm.
to Halo Infinite, and then the best PlayStation game of 2021, and they gave it to um, Elden Ring, and then
Okay.
the best Nintendo Switch game, and they gave it to Mario and Rabbids, the sequel.
So the point is like they're calling it that, but it's really like the most anticipated game,
They
basically.
didn't really make that clear, but yes, based on the fact that all three categories game coming out are being given out to games that are coming out, and on top of that,
Yeah.
with I think with Mario and Rabbids and Elden Ring, they're both 2022 games, and yet they're winning
Hmm.
a Game of the Year-ish kind of award for
Yeah.
2021. Just like that was really weird.
See, I think they were trying to do the equivalent of like the E3 game of the show stuff that people would do, where it's like, which game was best showcased like this E3 or whatever. But I think some of those games were not even at Gamescom in any way that I know of. But
Yeah. So, but
yeah.
other than that, though, that's as far as like the low. But as far as the goods, I mean, the pacing was good. The number of announcements that were like actually kind of like reasonably hype were there, and I think that like there was a lot of different genres for a lot of different people. There was a lot of cool trailers, like even for games that I'm not interested in, like the Marvel RTS game. Like that trailer was really cool, and
Hmm.
it really sucks that such cool designs and aesthetics and costumes are and is being utilized to a game that I have no interest in.
Right, right, right. All right, let's go through this. Xbox kicked off Gamescom a little early, but the show got its proper start with Opening Night Live, hosted as always by Jeff Keighley. It was a lengthy event, clocking in at hefty 2 hours, but there was a lot on the show, from surprising crossovers to big names like Halo, Horizon Forbidden West, and Death Stranding. If you weren't able to catch the event, there's all the biggest announcements and vast trailers. So the first one here is what Lewis just alluded to. Um, Firaxis is making a Marvel game. One of the biggest surprises was news that XCOM developer Firaxis is, I hope I'm saying that right, is dabbling
Yes.
in the Marvel universe with Midnight Suns. It's described as a tactical RPG, surprise, surprise, and will include a brand new customizable superhero designed specifically for the game. The studio will show off a gameplay trailer on September 1st, and the game itself is expected to launch next March. Lewis, why don't we just talk about it as we go through the different announcements? I'm gonna say this looked really cool to me. I think the trailer was awesome. We didn't really get to see the game though, unfortunately, as far as I
Right.
can tell. And it caught me off guard because in the beginning, especially at some point, I predicted that Doctor Strange would be added to Marvel's Avengers next. So I actually thought this was going to be because they have him in the beginning. This was going to be like Doctor Strange coming to Marvel's Avengers or something.
Yeah.
But no, it's a whole new game, which shows that Marvel is really out there pimping their IP right now. Like they're um, you got Spider-Man with Sony, you got Marvel's Avengers with Crystal Dynamics, we got the Nintendo one that I forgot the name, Ultimate Alliance,
And you got
right? With
Guardians of the
the
Galaxy with Square
Guardians of
again.
the Galaxy, and now this game, like it looks like we're walking like the road where we're gonna be getting multiple Marvel games a year soon.
And then
Um,
hopefully Marvel versus Capcom can come back and
yep.
for with. But anyways, yeah, no, like I said, it's definitely like this is a cool trailer, and I
Hmm.
almost kind of like. It just sort of like sucks. This also reminds me of DC Universe Online because DC Universe Online had a cool CGI like opening cinematic that was dope as hell, but the gameplay has nothing to do with how you would think. And that's kind of sort of what's happening here, and it just sort of makes me go, "Aw," I feel like a little deflated, but like that's a cool Iron Man looking Iron Man, and that's a cool Wolverine, and that's a cool Captain America. I mean, that is a squad. I know. Hey, yeah. By the way, Dan can't see my screen, but I have like the trailer playing. It's a cool squad photo going on where they're walking in slow motion. But yeah, no, like it's really cool, and yeah, if I were into RTSs, this would probably be like up there with anticipated, in my opinion.
Yeah. Next big news here is Halo got a release date and a special edition console. This one actually leaked out a bit before the show, but it's big news nonetheless. Halo Infinite is finally launching on December 8th. The game was originally expected to launch last year, serving as a big showcase for the Xbox Series X, but those plans were delayed in part due to the pandemic. The new trailer, meanwhile, focuses on the story for the game's multiplayer component, and while the game will be out this year, it will be missing a few pieces, namely campaign co op and the creative Forge mode. I had that on extra news. I guess I can just skip that there. And if you still need an Xbox Series X to play it on, Microsoft is making a special edition console and controller just for Halo. So here's the interesting thing. I actually watched the Xbox Gamescom showcase that happened the day before, and I would that one, we'll get to it later, but I would have expected an announcement like this to be made at that showcase. Liz and I even predicted a few weeks ago that would probably happen, and instead they saved it for opening night live. They gave it to Jeff Keighley. That's probably some kind of marketing strategy because they expected maybe more people to be watching the opening night live as
Yeah,
opposed to the
probably am.
Xbox.
I would probably imagine the opening night live has more viewership than what an Xbox conference would. So they were like,
Yeah.
let's go ahead and put it there.
Now, here's the interesting thing about this is that the release date is December 8th, but I've seen kind of some mixed messaging about this where it sounds like the game is coming out on December 8th, but it might not be the full game. That there's something that will come out that date. So Lewis, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, we've speculated about this date for a while.
So first off, number one, I'm very disappointed by the date. Um, I was expecting it to coincide like November 15th ish to
Hmm.
coincide with the original launch of the original Xbox to like have it the perfect 20-year anniversary thing. So that was probably internally that's probably what they wanted, but that's disappointment number one. Number two, I'm disappointed by the design of the limited edition like Halo 20th anniversary Xbox Series X they got going on. I'm not a fan of like that design. I think people are simping on it. I've seen people simping on it on Twitter and stuff. But me personally, if it's not Master Chief Green, then I don't want it. And number three, I want to know who got the prediction right because we did a prediction special a few weeks ago, and I forgot who said what.
I was looking for it right now. I literally have the our Google Drive. I wish I could remember what the episode was at the top of my head so I could go straight to that doc. But I am pretty sure, Lewis, you got this one right. Although it hasn't come out yet, so we don't know. It has to hit the date. It has to hit the date for it to count. But um, I remember that I predicted November, and I think you said, I would hope for November, but I think they're gonna need they're gonna need a few more weeks, and they're gonna release this guy in December. So maybe at some different
It's
point in the
episode
show, I can.
79, by the way, if you want to go to that doc.
Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna pull it up right now. We're gonna look at this on the spot.
All right.
Um, all right,
Well,
so Halo Infinite,
oh, okay.
I predicted November 2021, and you predicted December 2021.
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
So
Uh,
so far
I was
you're
such
winning.
I was a bitter like jaded asshole. I was like, and they're gonna fuck it up, you know. Like I even think I even said like yeah they were gonna announce November but then delay it to December. Like that's what I
Yeah.
said, but you know
Also, I'm gonna keep this doc open because it's about to come into play again. Because the
oh
next announcement here is that
Horizon.
Horizon Forbidden West is
Uh,
officially delayed to 2022.
wait,
When a
so
PlayStation,
question. Did we officially know it was a 2022 game before Gamescom? Was it still a 2021 game?
it was still a 2021 game, even though there had been many reports that the game had been delayed
Okay,
already.
all right.
Yeah, so it has a release date, like a set release date, which is February 22nd, 2022. And in the meantime, the original Horizon got a 60 FPS patch for the PlayStation 5. Now, Lewis, you'll be happy to hear that you beat me on this one as well. If it hits the date, because I predicted March and you predicted February.
Oh,
So you're 2 for 2 there. You're 2 for 2, and I'm 0 for 2.
yeah.
Unless Horizon,
Delays. Yeah,
Horizon could still get delayed.
yeah,
Now, it would be Halo Infinite is not coming out earlier,
yeah.
but um,
It's like psych. We're actually done. You know, like no, hell no. They're
all
probably
right.
gonna be like putting out fires day before it releases.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. And I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if December 8th we get like just the campaign, and then like we get multiplayer like a month after, and then we get whatever else like 2-3 months after. I feel like that game's gonna have a soft launch, for
Actually,
better or for worse.
admittedly, Dan and I are not Halo fans. We barely played Halo One this year, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know what it means to not have Forged or other modes that
Yep.
was being talked about. However, I know the name Forged. I know that that's a thing. Like when it comes to
Yeah.
Halo, like I've heard it before. I'm like not that much of a layman. However, from my understanding of the situation, is that those are like essential modes that are very iconic to the Halo brand,
Mm,
and to launch without it is like it's like Smash Brothers not launching with 4 player, like with no multiplayer. You know, it's like you can only do
yeah.
single player. You know, so that's like that. That's kind of like my understanding of how big a deal it is, and it almost kind of sucks. You know, it almost kind of it's almost like a showing. It's like Microsoft is showing their hand at how bad their development hell is. Like I know they're trying to
Yeah.
keep it under wraps and stuff like that, and say everything is good and sunshines and stuff, but we know, and I
Yeah.
know, and I'm telling you.
Yeah, it is definitely weird, and it's one of those things where it comes across like they probably just should have delayed the game again, but they can't, because they can't take that hit. They're just gonna release. We're gonna. How funny would it have been if Phil Spencer came on stage and he said, "Listen, guys, we know we've made y'all wait enough, so we're just gonna release what we have on December 8th." And then you're just gonna be along for the ride from then on. Anyway.
Well,
Um,
at least they're basically being forthcoming with the fact that it's essentially a game as a service for the generation. So
yes,
Halo
yeah,
Infinite in 2027 is not the same Halo Infinite in 2021 or 2022 for that matter. So hopefully, like
yes,
it'll be a more complete product. It just sucks that games have to launch like that, and it almost is a topic of the show in and of itself about the times that's ever happened, whether or not we want to, as gamers, want to keep it label it as an acceptable practices, but our wallets are saying otherwise, you know. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think I'm gonna hit up a lot of these other ones really quick here. Um, so we got more on the latest Lego Star Wars game, which covers all 9 of the main films, the Skywalker saga. We saw this game plenty of times before. Then there's a Persona 5 character coming to Super Monkey Ball, Banana Mania. which they already announced before. This was also in the extra news that Kirio from Yakuza was coming to the game, and now Morgana from Persona 5 will also be a DLC character. Saints Row is getting a reboot. There was a trailer for this. I think we got to see like a glimpse of gameplay as well. This is one of the first things. So I saw this one, and it's coming out February 25th on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X and S, and PC. Um, the long-awaited follow-up to an early iPhone hit, Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery EP called Jet: The Far Shore, is coming out. Has a release date on October 5th. Amazon's New World game is getting an open beta. It starts on September 9th. We got another look at Death Stranding Director's Cut. The enhanced version of the game still looks interesting, expanding on some of the ideas of Hideo Kojima's 2019 hit while adding next gen improvements. The next trailer gets into the nitty gritty of what's new. Call of Duty Vanguard, which we talked about a few weeks here, that it was like rumored or there was reports coming about it. Now it's officially announced, and it was officially revealed by Sledgehammer on the with the trailer and everything. You know, Lara Bailey was there and etc. On this show. April is joining the cast of Shredder's Revenge, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. And let's see. Yeah, we got some more indie game news here. So we got a look at a game called Cult of the Lambs. Uh,
it looks like this generation's Binding of Isaac.
Interesting, interesting. I'm gonna have to check that trailer out. As well as a game called Dokev. And we looked at Sifu again, which this was shown at a PlayStation State of Play before. It has a release date now, February 22nd, 2022. Aren't there three games here that are coming out on February 22nd?
February is
That's
very
pretty crazy.
packed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's also Horizon. And February 25th is Saints Row. Um, yeah. You know,
Yeah, February is starting to become like I've been noticing when like games get delayed out of the fall and they land in February. Like
yeah.
I was thinking about that one time where like Sony was having this during the PS4 generation kept on like missing holidays. So you would
Mm-hmm.
have games like Horizon Zero Dawn launch as well as that zombie game. What's that? What's that zombie game? That
Days Gone.
Days Gone. Yeah.
I think Days Gone got pushed further
Oh
though.
yeah,
I
that's
think,
right. It was supposed to be a
yeah,
February game and then it became like a May game or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. So yeah, pretty packed February. I think we're gonna see at least one of those games get pushed out. We saw so little of Saints Row that I could totally see that being one that gets delayed to May
Remember when Far
or
Cry
something.
6 was supposed to come out in February?
Oh yeah. That game's still not out. That's true. That's crazy. Um, yeah, Lewis. Anything you want to say about any of these other games?
There was a fighting game, and I can't remember what it was, and it's not. I don't think I see it in this rundown, but it was like a kinetic fighting game that looks kind of like John Wickish. It
Mm-hmm.
looked amazing, and I was thinking to myself, of like, damn, that was. It wasn't Sifu. I wasn't talking about Sifu, but it definitely caught my attention because it looked like a cool trailer. I'd have to see more whether or not I would buy it, but like it looks razzle dazzle kind of thing. But other than that,
Yeah.
like I said, like just the overall like. I guess because my like, see that's the thing. Opening night live just sort of like came at me like unexpectedly. To tell
Mm-hmm.
you the truth, I didn't see it coming. So my expectations were low and tempered and stuff like that. And so I was able to be pleasantly surprised. I think for me, Gamescom doesn't have like that E3 stigma of just being like
Yeah.
it needs to be the hypest hype of ever hype, that kind of thing. So I think for me, like it's better. I think this is like how digital events should be, consumed. Just sort of like let it come to you, don't anticipate it, and just be
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. There's a lot of stuff here that looks good. I mean, the Sifu game actually looks really cool. The game Cut of the Lamb that you also shouted out has a very unique and neat art style as well. Very very bright. So it comes across like this was a good show. I mean, they had some AAA stuff there. They had some cool indies there. I think the Saints Row reboot was a pretty big announcement. The new Marvel games a pretty big announcement. They got the Halo Infinite date. They got the Horizon date. They got like the release dates that people were the most anticipated for on Sony side and on Xbox side were on the show. So for Gamescom standards, I think this is a pretty good show. This might have been one of the best that they've ever had because traditionally, I feel like we haven't really seen much from Gamescom.
Agreed. And I am like trying to Google the fighting game. I am trying to find
Yeah,
that fighting game, but
you
I
can
can't
keep
find it.
looking for that. I'm gonna go through this other thing here. The Xbox showcase is reported by Sam Loveridge. This time for Games Radar. So I'm just kind of gonna go through the games that they showed. They showed Dying Light 2. They showed Flight Simulator World Update 6. There was a lot of like updates to some of their live service games. They covered a bunch of different games from Humble Games, the publisher, coming to Xbox Game Pass. Let me see if they actually have the list here. I don't think they do, but there's a bunch of like indie games coming day one to Xbox Game Pass. I think the biggest one was Dodgeball Academia, which I've heard about.
So wait,
Then we got
quick
mm,
before let me just interrupt you real quick. First off, the fighting game is called Midnight Fight Express.
okay.
That's the game. Secondly, um, this was let's go back to the actual opening night live because we sort of barely touched on it. But what are your thoughts on the Halo Elite controller and the Halo Xbox Series X?
Um, I guess I just don't care one way or another. Like you mentioned before, like we are not the Halo fans. I had not even seen it.
Oh,
And then I pulled it up while I had the link open, but I ended up closing it. So let me open it back here.
so I'm going to show it to the viewers for those that are
Yeah.
watching. But anyways, just saying the controller looks dope, but the thing is, it's an Elite controller, so it's like $250 or something like that, or
Right,
however much Elite
right, right.
controllers are. So that's no bueno for me, but it looks cool. But as far as like just like the console, again, I guess since I already have a console, I'm not going to be in the
Yeah.
market of trading up. I also don't own trying to think. I do not own any limited edition any console. By the way, I always basic blacks or, I'm basic. I'm a basic bitch when it comes to my hardware. So for
I don't
every
think
for
I
every
do
generation
either.
I've ever, because I either buy it in like day one so that I don't get to the limited editions don't exist, or just because like I like aesthetic and stuff like that. So yeah, all that notwithstanding, just in general, the
Yeah, I think
console
the
man.
console looks okay. I don't think it looks hideous. I don't think it looks particularly great either, but I often feel that way about a lot of those special edition consoles. I also don't think I own any that I can think of. Um I'm like maybe at some point a portable, but I don't even think I ever owned one like that. Lewis, the console that might end up being the first console that I own, like a special, video game themed edition for, might actually be the PlayStation 5 because I still don't have one. So, if they come up with a cool like
Horizon.
special edition for that, like a Horizon edition for that or whatever,
Oh,
then I might get that.
nice.
Um, all right. So going back to the Xbox One, though, let's see, where was I here? We got Into the Pit, Age of Empires 4. They talked about Xbox Cloud Gaming coming to Xbox Series X and Xbox One, meaning that you can now play, or you will be able to play Xbox Series X games on your Xbox One through the cloud. There was some DLC for Wasteland 3. There was a new DLC ship for Sea of Thieves that is inspired by Borderlands. We got to see an update to State of Decay 2. We saw a game called Stray Blade, Crusaders Kings 3. There was some focus on Psychonauts 2, which came out this week. A game called The Gunk, which we saw in one of the Xbox showcases last year, and they showed some more of it this time. It did not look particularly good to me. They talked some more about Forza Horizon 5. There's a special controller that they're releasing for it, and that's it. So the way I watched this one, and I tuned out at many sections of it, and what this felt like was like, oh, here's a bunch of updates to our live service games. And here is another look at Forza and Flight Sim, and here is some new Game Pass editions that are not that high profile, and X Cloud is coming to Xbox One, right? Um, so I didn't feel like it was a particularly impressive showing. I wasn't sure if they even really needed a conference for it. It came across like all of these things could have just been
Tweet.
trickled out. It's like yeah, it's like different like updates in their different channels. You know, like the people that are into Wasteland 3 are probably following the proper channels for that. So yeah, I didn't really do much for me. Louis and I, we talked a few weeks ago about how we were expecting that Xbox was going to bring something cool for this showcase, and we actually, it's funny, like we put our expectations up high, but then at the end we brought it back down and we said, you know, like if they only give us like this one or two things or whatever, then it's probably going to be good. But I don't even think they did that. I think like they kept it very, I don't know, like I guess like very granular to like specific niches of their audience, and they didn't really do much for the majority of watchers. I think.
Yeah, no, it sucks. I guess it was kind of interesting that we were having that discussion. I think on episode 83, where we were talking about like, oh man, what if they announced this, or what if we get
Yeah.
what was that?
What
Damn
if
it,
we see
Hellblade.
Hellblade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Or Fable? Yeah.
or Perfect Dark. That kind of stuff. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that sucks.
Uh, to me, this clearly shows that they're saving, they're saving that stuff for next year's E3. It seems like Xbox now they want to show they're doing so many showcases now that it's gonna lead to there being this cadence where they're gonna have a big show at E3, and then they're gonna have a lot of these smaller shows where it's like, yeah, there's some stuff here for some people,
You know, it's
like
kind of one thing that I was gonna think to myself is like for the entire generation of like the PS4 and the Xbox One, it always felt like, well, other than 2013, it felt like every single year, oh, they're just every company is holding back for next year. I don't know if that's like a
yeah.
narrative that you've been noticing, but it almost feels like, oh, Nintendo's just holding back, or oh,
You know,
Microsoft is holding back.
I think that's a good point that you make, but I think the point there is that it's like it's a narrative thing. It is it is or interpretation of the facts. It's almost like being in denial if you think about it. It's just like, but I'm not saying I'm in denial. I'm just saying it's like you're right. Like it's not even just that, but it's also like, dude, look at all the games that got delayed out of this year. Next year is gonna be amazing. It's gonna be the best year in games ever. I feel like we have also been hearing that for a few years now. Um, like I straight up like before the pandemic, even like I remember hearing that in 2019 about 2020 because a lot of those games like Cyberpunk and Final Fantasy 7 and everything else that ended up coming out in 2020, I think at some point they were coming out in 2019. So yeah, like I keep hearing this, and I think it's when we say like at least when I say like I think Xbox saving stuff for next year, what I mean by that is that like it's not that they had a bad show because they're holding back. It's more that they've already showed their the content that's gonna be coming out sooner. The content that's farther away, we're not gonna see until next year. So I meant it more in that sense.
Yeah,
But I agree with you that there is a narrative of like, oh, they're holding back. Like Nintendo is not really holding back. Like when Nintendo is ready to show their stuff, they'll show their stuff. That just means it's not ready yet. You know, like
yeah.
it's at least a year out. So that's why we're not seeing it.
No, I agree with you. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, and that's like every pundit would say that. Is what I'm saying. I've been like the
Yeah.
IGNs of the world are always saying that kind of stuff, and I was just thinking to myself, I was like, damn, when is
No,
there ever like a year
100%.
where everyone blows out like their wad, you know? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. Another thing that happened, this one was last week, was a Pokemon Presents. I didn't watch this, but let's hit up what happened here, as reported to Polygon by Michael McWhirter. The Pokemon Company debuted a new Pokemon Presents video presentation, revealing the latest news on upcoming Nintendo Switch games Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and Pokemon Legends Arceus. But that's not all. Pokemon fans also got updates on free-to-play MOBA Pokemon Unite, 5-year-old mobile game Pokemon Go, Pokemon Masters EX, and puzzle game Pokemon Cafe Mix. Here's the big news from the latest Pokemon Presents, which sadly does not include an update on Pokemon Sleep. I wanted to make that joke, but they made that joke before me. Um, Pokemon Unite is heading to mobile in September, September 22nd to be more specific, on Android and iOS. Pokemon Cafe Mix is getting remixed. Let's see what they mean by that. The game will get new puzzle elements, additional Pokemon, and new dress up options, and Pokemon themselves are finally allowed to eat. They went over some of the new stuff in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Um, they will be both updated and faithful to the originals. They'll feature the originals mini games like the Pokemon Super Contents, the Underground, and the Dowsing mini game, and your secret base. Players will also be able to customize their trainer's outfit and even their Pokeballs with collectible stickers that add visual effects to throw animations. Launching alongside this game is a new Nintendo Switch Lite console featuring Dialga and Palkia. So we're just talking about the Xbox, Halo Xbox. So let's look at this Switch. Oh, this looks lame as hell.
Yes, I was actually gonna say it's literally a copy. It's a copy paste job from the Pokemon DS. Like the Dialga and Palkia. Like there is a limited edition like Nintendo DS that has the same color and the same like lanyard like on it, and they just did it again on the Switch or the same color scheme and like. It sucks. It's totally like lazy. The most laziest limited edition, and probably like the worst limited edition Switch ever.
Let me ask you this, Liz. You've been in the collecting world a little bit longer than I have. You might know that Pokemon Diamond and Pearl are some of the more expensive, like very expensive games to collect nowadays. Do you think the release of this remake will somehow like make those prices, the prices of the original games, rise or fall?
I think it's gonna stay the same. I don't.
Hmm.
I think most times when it comes to re-releases, they don't actually decrease. They actually, yeah, they never decrease like the like the actual physical game. So like think about with Earthbound when it came on the Wii U, Earthbound
Yeah.
on Super Nintendo stayed right where it was at.
Yeah, interesting. Because here's what I would expect that like because there's now a new way to play the game, less people are going to be interested in buying the older original versions, and because of that, it will drive the prices down. But I
No, there's
guess
still
not.
merits. There's still merits on people wanting the original games.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Uh, Finally, here are the updates on Pokemon Legends Arceus. Game Freak showed off how Pokemon battles will work on the game. A definite variation on the battles we're all familiar with. When battles begin, players will have a few different style options for battling in a turn based fashion. Strong or agile styles, which change statistics on specific moves depending on situations. Likewise, some Pokemon may be able to take a few turns in a row based on their statistics. The turn based mechanics definitely look familiar, but the changes look intriguing. Four new Pokemon evolutions and variations are coming to the game's new Hisui region. Weird Deer, Hisuian I'm terrible at this. Is Hisuian Growlithe, Hisuian Braviary, and Basculigian, a terrifying new evolution of Basculin. Sorry, I am not the best with Pokemon names past like Gen 2 or 3. Um, so I could get some of those wrong. I'm playing the video right now. Yeah, dude, like is this game? Let me ask you this, Liz. Is this game gonna do to Pokemon what Breath of the Wild did to Zelda, when Mario Odyssey did to Mario?
no.
Or no? Okay.
Okay, well, I think there's going to be initial like what do you call it? Anticipation. Like there are definitely people who are looking forward to it because it's like, oh, it's the new hotness, and it's an evolution, no pun intended, for Pokemon.
Hmm.
And it's definitely like it got a cool art style and like cool designs. Like I love that Growlithe design, by the way. I like but here's the thing. I think that the Nintendo Switch is the hardware is doing a disservice to the ambition of this game. Like, oh, when I'm
Mm.
looking at this game and I'm just seeing it, it just looks a little rough around the edges, and
Yeah.
I just don't think that they are capable of bringing a world to life that that we sort of want. I think with Breath of the Wild, they were able to get away with it because it's like a very desolate, very like
Hmm.
quiet like land. Like there's not a whole lot going on. But when you try to
Yeah.
populate things with so many creatures and like towns and like and quests and stuff, things like that, you're just sort of like taxing the Switch basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually wanted to ask you about the Shining Diamond and Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl remakes as well, because if you look at the video and you see the gameplay of the actual games, I was actually sort of disappointed, and not in the sense that it's not a faithful recreation because it is, but I'm disappointed in the sense that it almost looks like there's no ambition. Pokemon is a billion like they're a $1 billion company, like they're a $1 billion franchise. They have to have money to they have to have a budget, and it almost looks like they laid that game on a shoestring budget, which is terrible for an IP that's valued so highly.
Hmm. Um. Yeah. I have to say I want to say this. I want to talk about both games a little bit. So I I've played some Pokemon games, but there's plenty that I didn't play. I never played Diamond and Pearl. When I look, I have thought that Pokemon needs like some level of reinvention. I don't know, like it needs some new uh so it needs some love, right? Like we need. It's about time that would bring Pokemon. We figure out what the next level for Pokemon is, and I think they're trying to do that. I also don't know if that's really what the fans want because the game sells every year. So, um, like Call of Duty and all these other games. When I look at Arceus, like I am very excited about the ambition of the game, but I agree with you where I don't think they're being able to. Doesn't look like they're able to fully realize that ambition. I actually think the game looks really bad, and I feel like I already know to like lower my standards when I'm looking at a Switch game versus other platforms.
Oh, especially
But
now with the PS5 and the Series X.
yeah, yeah, that's my point. But like looking at this game, like it feels like you're looking at like a PS3 game from like
360.
2010
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Like and it's not even just it's not even just the poly count or whatever. It feels so empty. Like it looks like I don't know, it just kind of looks low budget to me, unfortunately. And I actually think that Shining Pearl and Brilliant Diamond actually look higher budget somehow.
What the
Like
hell?
I think they look better because to me, like with Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, it's like a style choice, and I think they're fully realizing that style. It makes me think of A Link Between Worlds a lot.
Hmm.
Like I think they're going for that art style, which is like somewhat of a
Chibi.
controversial like art style, but within the art style, I think it's a competent looking game. I just don't know, like you talked about like it feels like they're not trying too hard to like make this stand out compared to the original. So maybe that's true. I don't really remember. I don't really know like how this compare. I would have to look at it side by side to make an opinion on to have an opinion on that. Um, so yeah, I don't know. We're getting two Pokemon games, and I have a feeling that neither of them are gonna set the world on fire as far as um like critical reception goes, as far as like standing the test of time. But I think they'll both sell because they're Pokemon, and Pokemon just sells.
If this game came out 10 years ago, then this would have been like one of those most like lauded releases to
Yeah,
ever. Like like this would be like the way we talk about like Breath of the Wild now, like 5 years later, is kind of how we would talk about this game. But the thing is, this game is a little late, and also, like I said, the Switch is not doing its any favors. As a matter of fact, it almost kind of feels like if there were a Switch Pro, that this would have been like a marquee title for the Switch Pro.
yeah, um, yeah. True,
Also,
true thing.
side note, I've seen better water on the PS3.
Yeah, yeah. I hate to say it. I hate to sound mean, but it just doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right for 2021. And there are other Switch games that do, So I agree that this game could have used better hardware, but I also feel like maybe there are, I don't know, like design choices, art choices that they could have taken to make it better. Maybe it would have been better with a smaller world. Maybe they maybe there could have been a way that they could have done it like in a like maybe like a smaller world but with more polish to like the different sections of the world and
More
stuff.
denser, yeah.
Yeah, like denser, exactly, that's a good word for it. All right, Lewis, next up here, the July NPD results came out during the 2 weeks that we were off for this podcast, and I brought in a report for the NPD from Sheriff Syed for VG 24/7.
Odd, but okay.
Odd,
You normally use the same source with that
yes.
grayish green
I,
website.
I normally do gamesindustry.biz,
Yeah,
I
that's the
believe.
one.
But this time this one was the one that came up to my feed, and I was like, this article looks good enough, so let's just go with it. The NPD has published its report for the US market across retail and some digital channels, covering the game business for the month of July. Consumer spending on hardware, software, and accessories amounted to $4.6 billion over the course of July, a 10% increase over last year, which is pretty good considering, last year, July, we're in the beginning of the pandemic still. Hardware in particular saw the most growth with a hopping 98% dollar sales jump compared to July last year, likely due to us having new consoles and more availability of the Switch. NPD said this is the highest since July 2008 and the third highest July overall. Pretty good July. PS5 was the best selling console in dollar sales during July, and the Switch was the highest in unit sales. So the Switch continues to outsell the competition, but the PS5 is also selling really well, making a lot of money. The Switch remains the year's best selling in both unit and dollar sales. On the softer side, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword came in at number one in dollar sales, making it the first Nintendo published game to lead the month since Super Mario 3D World in February. I don't know if anything came out between February and August for Nintendo, but if it did, it didn't do as well. Skyward Sword. The number three spot went to Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin. In July alone, sales were over three times as many as Monster Hunter Stories lifetime sales. That's crazy.
Jeez.
And here's the list. Now, Games Industry.biz usually has like the top 20. This just has the top 10. So here's the place where maybe they would have reported better. But number one, Skyward Sword. Number two, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Number three, Monster Hunter Stories 2. Number four, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I'm assuming. Number five, Minecraft. Number six, Mario Golf Super Rush. Number seven, MLB The Show 21. Number eight, Spider Man Miles Morales. Number nine, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Number 10, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
I'm just can't get over the fact that Call of Duty has two colons in its name. Still, even after, cause seeing it like laid out like that in one line, it just
Also, that game is like 9 months old now, and it's still like number two on the NPD for July.
yeah. And also, Modern Warfare is a year and a half old.
Yeah, true. Good point, good point. Um, I'm actually seeing if I can find this on gamesindustry.biz as
You're
well, so
such
that
a
I can. I want to see
don't
the.
do
I want to
it.
look at the full list.
Don't do it.
Here we go. It's okay. It's okay. We can give props to 24/7, but also get. I want to look at the full list. Um, Number 11 was Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Number 12 was Animal Crossing New Horizons. Number 13 was Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 plus 2. Number 14 was Super Mario 3D World. Number 15 was Mortal Kombat 11. Number 16 was Neo The World Ends With You, which was a new game in the list. Uh, Number 17, Breath of the Wild. 18, Pokemon Sword and Shield. 19, Resident Evil Village. And 20, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So yeah, nothing super surprising here. I guess Scarred Sword actually doing really well. If anything, that is the only surprise here.
Man, I'm just it almost kind of feels like Animal Crossing New Horizons isn't like sustaining like that level of hype that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Smash and Mario
Yeah,
Odyssey had in the top 10 of the NPD month over month. So yeah,
yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because I do get the vibe that the Animal Crossing, like I don't know
the
what
party's
what you would
over.
call it, like the sensation, like
Yeah,
the big
fad.
thing with the fad. There we go. That's the word. That seems to have been over for a while now. I feel like um that game I saw some interesting commentary about this recently. I think it might have been on Nintendo Voice Chat, the IGN's Nintendo podcast, but they were talking about how with previous Animal Crossing games, it was more of like a slow burn. Like, people started in day one, but then they played the game a little bit every day, and it remained the case for a while. Like the content was spread out more evenly across a longer stretch of time. Versus with this game, it feels like everybody went in like intense, like passionately for the first few months. First, like good like 6 months of the game being out.
Terraformed
It
an island and then left.
Yeah, it was like everybody played it for like 200, 300 hours, like consumed all the content there was to be consumed. And that after that, things have kind of slowed down. Nintendo wasn't able to drop as many like meaningful updates as the fans maybe expected. And then people slowly just kind of dropped out after that. So I feel like the game could have a second life if Nintendo comes up with some major update, maybe this year, maybe next year. But in the meantime, I think it's going to just slowly fall off. It's still in the top 20 in the list, but it's probably just going to slowly fall off until it's not there anymore. Still a huge hit, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, and for our next story here, reported by Joe Screbbles for IGN. Outriders dev doesn't know how many copies it sold and hasn't earned any royalties. This is just an interesting, odd one to throw in here. Outriders developer People Can Fly says it doesn't know how many copies the game has sold and hasn't earned any royalties from the game, suggesting it hasn't yet been profitable for publisher Square Enix. Announced on the developer's investor website, People Can Fly explained that the agreement with Square meant it would receive any royalties for the game's first quarter on sale by August 16, 2021. No funds were transferred, which People Can Fly suggests means that, open quote, according to the publisher, the revenues from the sale of the game are lower than the total cost of its production, including quality assurance, distribution, and promotion. People Can Fly executive Sebastian, some last name that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce, added that the company had no firm data for copies sold. Open quote, we don't have any sales figures for Outriders. We estimated between 2 and 3 million units and assumed that this was a result that would ensure profitability for this project in the first quarter of sales. The lack of payment by the publisher probably means that, according to Square Enix, this is not the case. Um, this executive also suggests that a lack of profitability could be caused by the publisher, including distribution partnerships. The game was launched into Xbox Game Pass, for example, or that Square Enix spent more than expected on releasing the game. It wouldn't be a unique situation for Square Enix. Last year, the publisher announced that Marvel's Avengers had failed to recoup its development costs a few months after launch. I'm gonna leave it there for now. So here's what I find so fascinating about this, Louis. This game was a huge sensation this year for like a good like month, 2 months, 3 months. I don't know. Everybody was talking about this game. Everybody was playing it. I didn't play it. I wasn't interested. It wasn't Game Pass, and it sold a lot on Game Pass. But this game also charted on the NPD. Like, I know people are not buying it, the ones that are playing on Game Pass, but it did seem to have that effect that other Game Pass games have, where it's like word of mouth gets out. People that don't have Game Pass just go and buy the game on their PlayStation or PC or whatever. Um, and you would have expected the game to be profitable. Now, there's a few interesting things to unpack here. The game was not profitable, seemingly, but the developer doesn't even know. So, what kind of relationship does this developer have with its publisher, where they basically have to make a guess that if they weren't paid, I'm guessing the game wasn't profitable,
Yeah,
and they don't know how many sales it had. So,
there has
I
to
don't know.
be a
There's a lot of weird here.
there needs to be transparency, like straight up,
Yeah,
like 100%. Like, and I would hope that Outriders, the People Can Fly, can, either A, have access to these their books, and also B, can like even have some say so in the marketing budget of the game, because if you leave it completely up to Square and Square overspends or over like promotes it on marketing
yeah.
promotion, and then it just balloons, then you're not going to get profitability at all. That's just going to screw you over. So the developer should definitely have some control over like keeping a rein on how much you're going to spend on promotion. But
And
yeah,
here's the other side of this too. Like, what the hell is Square Enix even doing? Like, I feel like this is definitely not the first story like this that we've seen from Square Enix. I mean, in this format, yes, but we've heard a few years ago about how Tomb Raider, like one of the Tomb Raider reboots, had sold like millions of copies, but it was not profitable. We know Marvel's Avengers, despite all the issues with it, sold millions of copies, wasn't profitable. And now we're hearing this again about Outriders, the game that was well regarded, well received, played by millions of people, not profitable. Like,
and then
there seem to be some systemic management issues here, or like just like promotion issues. I don't know.
think about how that's how they lost IO Interactive and Hitman.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that too, yeah.
So it's like,
Um,
yeah, it's a little sus. Like,
mhm.
but I will say that when it comes to Game Pass deals, Xbox, Microsoft, they cut a check, for like, here's how
Mhm.
much we're going to pay you for the licensing it to be on Game Pass. Either they give like here's a blanket amount, or maybe perhaps, and I don't know, we don't know the business practices, but maybe they pay out per download. So when somebody actually downloads it, then they have to
Yeah.
pay a fee for that or something like that. We don't know.
Mhm.
It's either one of the two or a combination.
Yeah.
However, either way, it's not free. Microsoft is cutting a check. We know that,
Yeah.
which means
Yeah.
that
100%.
should be used towards profitability. Is what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not a zero sum to go on Game Pass. There's People on Level One Gaming comparing. He says it's okay. They call it the Game Pass stimulus package. You know what I mean? You talk about word of mouth and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it just sucks. Like, okay, there's so many things wrong with this picture in general.
Hmm.
So yeah, it just sucks. And I almost kind of wish that People Can Fly or somebody out there could have like done a better job of reading their contracts, because I'm pretty sure that People Can Fly had nothing to do with whether or not it went to Game Pass. That was a Square Enix thing. And number
Yeah.
two, they should have had like secured the bag, from that.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too is like I think some fanboys might have grabbed this and used it as a way to criticize Xbox or criticize Game Pass or whatever. This has nothing to do with Microsoft. In fact, a lot of games that come out on Game Pass are profitable. There's a lot of other examples of developers talking about this. A good example actually is MLB The Show, which is one of the best-selling games of the year, and it was day one on Game Pass, right? So, being on Game Pass does not equal your game is not going to be profitable. Square Enix is the one that dropped the ball here in some way. And shout out to Fame and the Level One Gaming crew. And I did watch a little bit of, I think it was the Double XP podcast last week, and they started, like, Fame started the show going on a rant about this, and it was fascinating to watch. So go check that out.
Yes, indeed, I saw
Um,
too. And they
yeah,
talked
there we
about
go.
Outriders. They play Outriders like hella, so they're
Hmm.
into it. So that's why I was saying, like, I know that this game was a hit, or at least in some circles, But yeah,
Yeah. All right, Louis, for our final topic of discussion here, I'm actually going to pass it over to you to just kind of go ahead and talk to us about Fortnite and what's going on with Fortnite.
yeah. I have taken over topics of discussion with the Battle Bus segment, and here's the thing: there's so many Fortnite topics that they just sort of all like built up and stuff, and it's just like I love it, and I haven't been this excited to do a Battle Bus in quite some time. So let me just start off by saying I actually did get around to playing Fortnite, and I actually leveled up to level 69. Yeah,
Nice.
I stopped there on purpose. I leveled up, and I was actually playing the game, and I actually finally got abducted for the first time, where I was like, going through this
Hmm.
crucible and attacking other players and stuff like that, and they just released me back into the wild and stuff like that. I was trying to do like a mission, and they like sort of interrupted me. I'm trying to
Hmm.
unlock the Superman skin, by the way, and it's actually a pain in the
Uh-huh.
ass.
Yeah,
So
I unlocked it, so I know it's annoying because you got to go and get these quests from phones, and they
yeah,
got to be quests from certain superheroes,
from
and
Clark
sometimes you
Kent,
go,
from Beast Boy,
yeah,
and from
and
Batman.
so many times I like drop somewhere to go and like go into one of the phone booths, and then there wasn't any quests from the characters that it had. Like, not all phones in the game have the quests, and then you gotta go out and do them. But yeah, I managed to unlock him already. But yeah, it was a little bit of a pain.
Didn't you get all like have you? And I haven't been playing the game, by the way, so I haven't done epic quests, which are like purple quests and higher.
Hmm.
And you have to have like 80 something quests done or whatever to like unlock certain like alternate skins. So like there's a black suit Superman. Um,
Yeah, I haven't done any of the alternate stuff yet. I pretty much just got him.
the
But
basic
yeah,
red and blue. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I've been trying to do that. There's a lot of cool like map changes. Like there's like an area where you can sort of like and when you're in a building, you're like in a square bubble, and you can sort of just
Yeah.
jump and sort of like navigate in three-dimensional space however you please, which is really weird. Um, there's a lot going on, and I'm like, man, this game is sort of like. It almost kind of feels like I'm missing out on a good season. I haven't been playing this game with my friends or anything like that, but it almost kind of feels
No.
like there's so much tinkering and tooling around with like the map and its features and gameplay mechanics. I actually am impressed that they were having what seems like a good season. But it's going to be a grind because I think it's like September 12th, I want to say, is when the season ends. So I need a grind to get all these challenges
Mhm.
done and get my level up to get a Rick unlocked. I
Mhm.
have Morty, by the way. Oh, speaking of which, skins. There are so many skins that I collected. Like I like logged in like casually, like really quick for like a minute to like go to the
Mhm.
store and buy skins and then log out. So I have like a Cammy skin from Street Fighter, a Guile skin from Street Fighter, like waiting for me. I got an Ariana Grande skin.
Hmm.
I got Morty. Morty just got unlocked. So Morty's in a mech suit. So because Morty is a kid and he's short, so they put him in a mech suit to make him tall, so that way he can have parity with like hitboxes and stuff.
Hmm.
And then there's what else? There's all these other skins. I can't remember. But anyways, so I have all that's going on, and what else? What else? What else? What else? Yeah, I guess that's it. That's all I wanted to say as far as the gameplay goes and the skins and stuff like that. I'm very. Oh yeah, I missed out on a skin, and I was very dissatisfied with that. I watched Free Guy in theaters for Ready Play Movies and stuff like that. I gave impressions on it. However, there was a Ryan Reynolds like free dude. His because there's like his free guy and free dude. Whatever. Anyways, there was like he's like jacked and like muscular as hell, and like he was in there, and I didn't get him, so that sucks. I missed out on him. Oh yeah, and I got Wonder Woman. I got a Wonder Woman skin that was dope. I think she's still in the shop. I want to say, and there's actually challenges at ATMs because in Free Guy you can actually he goes to an ATM machine, and then
Hmm.
you go to the ATM machine, and then Ryan Reynolds is there. He's like
Yeah,
he
it's like a
filmed a
straight up
scene.
video.
It's a video of him, and like he's talking to the camera and stuff like that, and giving you a quest, and I'm like, that's cool. So that's a lot of
Yeah.
integration.
So, when you play games, and they have some kind of feature that inverts your controls, like that they make like left go right, right go left, or
Yeah,
something like that, like because your character's drunk or got tricked or I don't know,
yeah.
whatever the hell. It's like with a feature like that is the kind of thing where I always go uh, like I understand the work that went into making this, but this just makes the gameplay experience worse. So why would you do it? And that's how I feel about this whole season of Fortnite. Like I feel like a lot of work was put into making new things that are bad, like that just are not fun.
Like
Like
the alien
I,
abduction and
yeah, like
the little
oh, I'm
square
in the
bubbles.
like I imagine the designer room, and I first I should say, like, I don't mean this disrespectfully. Like I work in games, and I respect everybody who works in games and makes games, but because I'm here sitting in a position where we're criticizing the things that we personally liked or didn't like in the game, then I just kind of want to go all out a little bit to talk about it. But I imagine somebody coming into a designer room and being like, dude, I got the greatest idea. Wouldn't it be awesome with, like, right as this person is in the middle of combat, they're about to complete their quest, like they're so into it, they're gonna get a headshot, or like maybe they're doing this thing because they want to do the quest level up and stuff. Then they suddenly get abducted by another player. They get pulled completely out of where they were at and thrown somewhere else in the map, and they're completely fucked. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? Like, no, no, that sounds like a terrible idea. Don't do that. Oh, wouldn't it be fun if there was like a part of the map where like gravity is all fucked up so you can barely control your character, it's super uncomfortable, and if you jump, you're like falling in the air for like 30 minutes and your gameplay experience is terrible? Wouldn't that be awesome? Like,
You just have to
no.
jump down. I figured that out. Yeah. For the first couple of minutes, I didn't
Anyway,
figure it out. But yeah, no, like you
um
have to like look down and then press X or like and then it just sort of shoots you down.
when I
Yeah.
play the game now, I straight up avoid all the new shit because I don't like it. Like, it just annoys me. Like I just want to play. Like I just want vanilla Fortnite.
Oh,
Like,
and but that's
don't
the
give me any of
worst
this
though.
crap. Like,
That's the worst because the challenges are telling you to go to the new shit.
yeah. I do it when I need it for the challenges and stuff. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just like I can tell, like, yeah, they put a lot of effort into making all these new things, but I think I look at it as wasted effort. Like, I wish they had put effort towards, like, I guess, making the game better. And the other thing too is like, there, all these features are gonna be gone.
Yeah.
Like
They got
none
rid
of
of
this
like
like
sand tunneling, like, and they get rid of stuff all the time.
yeah, I know. Like, so there is this format to the live service game of Fortnite, which is the case for other live service games as well, which is like, let's just change things up. Let's just make it weird. Let's just do all this crazy weird shit. And then it's there for like those 3 months or whatever, and then it's gone. And I can't help but wonder whether that's like really like good like development, because I would almost rather they like give me new shit that stays in the game, like the cars, right? Like when they added cars, like, or when they added boats or whatever, like fishing, like all this like new features that stay in the game. I am more interested in seeing that. I mean, even crafting, which at first I thought was a cool feature, but I found it to be kind of useless on the new season. Like,
And they changed the currency too, the currency system.
yeah, so like I want to see a new season that brings like new, fun, cool features that elevate the gameplay experience. And I didn't think that this season brought that, to my opinion. In my opinion. So,
No, fair enough. Fair
um,
enough.
yeah, that was a
Um,
long rant there for me, but
all right. And as far as other Fortnite news goes, Among Us is back in Fortnite now. Among Us was previously a featured thing, and it was a. Epic has this thing where they feature a creative as a game mode. So like somebody can go in creative and create whatever they want, right? And they can do a lot of things within the Fortnite engine. And I've seen cool shit. And so what they did is, I guess either A, it's the same team that did it the first time, or B, it might have been Epic themselves, which, judging by the amount of polish is in the imposters, they call it imposters,
Mhm.
imposters mode. I think it's Epic developing it from the looks of it, because there's a lot of like icons and customization that a creative wouldn't have, a
Mhm.
creator wouldn't have. So yeah, basically it is a blatant ripoff, and Dan put in an article from The Verge, and it's saying it's like Among Us devs are not happy with Fortnite's blatant copying. And I have played Imposters Mode, by the way, in preparation for today, and yeah, the map is very similar. It's extremely like, you know, very similar as far as I'm actually kind of impressed by the level of custom, like not custom, like but like you can basically do chatting with just like commands and very like what do you call it, dialogue boxes that are like you just sort of use the right stick and just hover to like the
Mhm.
diagonal and say I want to say this and this, like no I'm innocent or you're sus or all this other stuff. They just sort of like pre-scripted all of the like the discussions and like sort of like optimize it. And I think it's really cool that they sort of like did their own spin on Among Us, and it's basically like three-dimensional Among Us. Everyone has their own color and their own identifier, and you can sabotage, you can do tasks, you can do kills like as an imposter or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like it's a mode, and I'm pretty sure that mode isn't here to stay. To tell you the truth, I don't think they're going to keep it. There's a lot of modes that come and go in Fortnite in previous seasons, so this should
Yeah.
be no different. Uh, so unless I'm proven otherwise, by the way, but overall, I mean, this is like 2 seasons ago, and this is just like the what do you call it? The fruition, like the full realization of that concept that we were shown like a
Yeah.
couple of seasons ago. So, did you have any
Yeah.
particular thoughts on Among Us in Fortnite?
I haven't played it. I didn't play it before, and I didn't play the new version either. It was kind of interesting when it showed up. I felt like people were advertising it almost as like just a new thing, and I was like, wait, wasn't this already a thing before? But I guess it is. I guess it is different.
Yeah,
Um, it's. I think this sparks an interesting discussion that we're not going to have time to get into today, which is like the whole like copying in video games and the concept of like patenting stuff and whether like it's ethical for game developers to like patent ideas that they have. At the end of the day, like Among Us themselves, I'm sure that was not the first game to implement that format. Like I mean werewolf, like it's basically like werewolf and,
yeah,
and things that have been around forever, like mafia and stuff. And so it's not like they created that type of gameplay or whatever, but they've created a version of it that common sense says that Epic just kind of looked at that and wanted to implement that in their game. But it's no different than Epic, back when they already had Fortnite out in 2017, looking at PUBG, that was this huge hit, and then bringing that mode to Fortnite, which then later gets brought into Call of Duty and all this other stuff. So it feels like that's just how the games industry works. Um, we are not an industry that has a habit of like, oh, like I made this so it's mine, like nobody can have it. Like other industries may be like that, but in games is more like this collaborative thing. Like I've created this new thing, like, oh yeah, go ahead, do it as well, and then somebody else does it and like makes it different, makes it better. Somebody else makes like brings two things together and makes something new. It's very Everything is very derivative. So
unless you're the Nemesis system. But go on.
yeah, so I don't feel that passionately about it either way, but I will say this: a company in the position that Epic is in, when they are so much bigger than the developers of Among Us,
Oh
who
yeah,
are literally like four people,
yeah,
um, you can't help but wish that they had been a little bit more thoughtful about ripping them off, and that they could have like brought them in some way, or
or
like
a
asked for their
license it,
blessing,
or
or
license it.
licensed
Yeah,
it.
like imagine calling it
Um,
Among Us, or something like that,
yeah, like Fortnite Among Us,
or even having the official skins of like their characters with
Yeah,
like that kind of stuff. I would have been cool. If anything, they would have
yeah,
probably would have been okay with it because they would have just been showered with money.
yeah,
So
yeah, 100%. So I just feel like this is another one of those instances where I think Epic shows their true colors a little bit. Like, not to get too into it, but um, sometimes I think Epic presents themselves as like, oh, like we're the good guy. Apple, they're the bad guys. We're fighting for the little people. We're fighting for the underdog. We're the underdog and all that stuff. And I think this just kind of reminds us that no, they're not. Like, they're a billion-dollar company taking advantage of other people's ideas to keep making billions of dollars, and that's just what it is.
yeah, and I pulled up the tweet by the way here on screen. It's the side by side comparison of the two maps, and you can see that they're very visually
Yep.
similar to each other. There's like a little alterations, but overall it's practically a template. But yeah, that's pretty much it for as far as Fortnite Among Us, not crossover, but crossover. But the last thing that Fortnite is in the news, and this literally happened today, day of recording. Uh, this is like, Fortnite has gone woke before during the BLM uh, marches that happened July of last year in July of 2020. There was, a podcast that was being simulcasted within Fortnite and talking about like racial things. And so that was one thing. It's like it's basically having a TED talk within Fortnite. That's Fortnite is sort of becoming a platform, right? And there's like so much
Yeah.
communication and things like that. Now, this is different because the New York Times decided to collaborate with Epic, and they decided to recreate the Martin Luther King "I Have a Dream" speech slash the March on Washington D.C. And so it's been built within the game, and I'm pulling the trailer right now. And you can sort of see like the Washington Monument, and like you can see it's sort of like being built in engine and all that stuff. And then you see all of these Fortnite characters and their Fortnite skins all like marching together in like in that kind of like big crowded area, sort of like how do I put it? Like they're harkening back to that moment in the 60s during the civil rights
Hmm.
era. And then you have like projected on the screen is the actual "I Have a Dream" speech, being played, and you can hear it and you can walk around. There's like a little like tour that you can sort of take within and see like different things, um, like like a museum of sorts, like a virtual
Hmm.
museum. And I've been seeing a lot of negative reaction on like on online about this. Not because it's like a bad message. It's not to say that there's nothing like in and of itself, it's like a bad idea. I think it's just the audience. It's the fact that the Fortnite metaverse is about like kids playing and fighting, killing each other with, guns and sort of like being a last man standing kind of thing. And this almost doesn't have a place, so to speak,
Hmm.
in that with that audience, with this crowd, especially when like I saw an article where saying that they went into this game mode, looked it out, tried it out, and then they immediately like exited out of that mode, and then the loading screen gives you tips about how to play the game, and so it just so happened that his loading screen had a tip that said headshots do more damage. And then Martin Luther King,
Hmm.
was assassinated, headshot and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So it just sort of like is very like,
Yeah.
it's like read the room, sort of, so to speak.
Um, I feel like I feel like personally, I feel like hating towards this feels a little forced to me, because um they've used Fortnite for like other things, and it does come across a little silly because of the tone of the game. But you had a very interesting thing you said earlier, which is that Fortnite is no longer just a game; it's a platform, right? Which means that if it's a platform, like I can use like it almost makes me think of the following: like if I'm scrolling through like Facebook or Reddit or Twitter or something, you may go from a political post, like somebody's political opinion, to like puppies,
Or
to
memes.
some, to like a meme, to like another joke, to whatever, right? Like so it's like it's like this mix of like tones and different things, because it's just like different things that you're being fed, and you consume what you want. Like you have a level of control of what you want to consume. Like if you don't like what that person tweets, then don't follow them. If you don't like that stuff, then don't do that. Don't engage with that. Um, it gets a little iffy when things are fed to you that you maybe wouldn't want to see, right? Like everybody like kind of finds that annoying sometimes. Um, but I guess my point is like I think Fortnite is kind of evolving to become a little bit more like that. So like if you want to go and have a museum like experience about Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement in Fortnite, then you can go and do that. If you want to go and just shoot people, you can go and do that. Like, and it's just like you're just given all the options basically. Um,
I can't wait
yeah,
till
I don't.
they create the Holocaust Museum within Fortnite.
I mean, maybe they will.
Would you be
That's the thing.
offended,
It's like
or at least faux offended?
um, if it's done like tactfully and respectfully, like I don't think I would. No,
Nah.
like
But I
I
don't think that
think
you can, because the thing is, the players, you can't control player behavior. So if you're in a virtual museum with other players in the lobby, you can literally have an emote where you throw a tomato at the wall. You know what I mean? Like
mhm,
there's so many things can go wrong. You know what I mean?
right.
So like
That's a
that's
valid point. Yeah, that's a valid point
that's
that
just
I
something
hadn't thought of.
to put out. And also, not to mention, if you can go in any skin you want, there's there's why is like Storm from X-Men, in like Will Washington Monument. I guess that's a probably a bad one, but like you know what I mean, like Guile from
Yeah.
Street Fighter. You know what I mean, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess I just like I wouldn't care. Like I kind of like the idea that, I like to think that maybe there's a world where Fortnite could be turned into that we
Ready
could use
Player
the
One.
fact.
That's another life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe we could use the fact that so many kids are into Fortnite and turn into a little bit of an educational experience on top of it being just a video game, right? Like, 'cause nobody wants to play educational games, but if the game that you're already playing anyway has some educational elements to it, then you can learn things that way, right? Like a lot of people learn history through civilization and Age of Empires and all that other stuff.
Can you
So
imagine
like
when you ask a little kid, it's like, "Oh, who's Martin Luther King?" and he's like, "Oh, the guy from Fortnite."
well,
Also,
that
oh yeah, just separate side note. This should have happened in January during MLK.
Yeah.
MLK.
Also, they should do a Martin Luther King skin for the. Okay, that part is a joke.
You know what? They're not. The Fortnite Epic is not above it. But go on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I can see why it would be a little goofy, or there's potential for weirdness with it. But I think with this one, their heart is probably in the right place, and they're collaborating with somebody, and I think that I don't know. I wouldn't mind if we saw more of this type of thing.
Yeah. So much news in the Fortnite, but yeah, that's. I'm glad I decided to bring this up here. I really. It was a lot to talk about for Fortnite, so I pass the
Yeah.
show back over to you.
Sounds good. I'll go through our extra news here real quick. Number one, touch controls have been added to the following Game Pass games: Hades, Going Under, Need for Speed Heat, Peggle 2, Psychonauts, Blood Roots, Farming Simulator 19, and Wasteland Remastered, Wasteland 2, and Wasteland 3. Number two, Phil Spencer has ruled out the possibility of launching Xbox Game Pass on other console platforms in the near future. Number three, Microsoft is starting to test a new higher resolution dashboard for the Xbox Series X designed to improve UI elements for a 4K display. Number four, Phil Spencer recently got to try out Valve's new Steam Deck handheld gaming machine, and he's a fan, going on to say it runs Xbox games and xCloud very well. Number five, with Control having passed 10 million players, Remedy Entertainment has entered full production on its upcoming game project with Epic Games. Number six, Evo, the fighting game tournament, will return to an in person format in Las Vegas next year. Number seven, Nintendo game pirating site ROM Universe was ordered to permanently get rid of all unauthorized Nintendo games and intellectual property copies. Number eight, Sea of Thieves officially broke its record player count in June, 3 years after Microsoft Studios published the open world High Seas adventure game. Number nine, EA is giving away accessibility related patents, including Apex Legends' popular ping system, in the hope that they will be used and expanded upon by other developers to help make games more inclusive. Number 10, Pokemon Go will no longer restore the game's pre pandemic radius for interacting with Pokestops and gyms, developer Niantic has said, making a significant U turn on its previous plans, which we covered in the show. Number 11, Lance Barr, the man who famously designed the NES and the SNES consoles, has retired from Nintendo. Number 12, Stardew Valley is hosting a $40,000 esports tournament, which is weird. And then finally, for the roundup, Skyrim is coming to the next gen on November 11th. WWE 2K22 has been delayed to March 2022. Kiryu from Yakuza is joining Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, which we covered earlier in the show. And Dying Light Platinum Edition will come to Switch at a to be determined future date.
Interesting. How do you even like do competitive Stardew Valley? Is what I want to know.
I don't know either, but they're doing a thing. Yeah, they're finding like some of the best players in the world, and then they're gonna compete in some way. Like I don't know, maybe you start the game from scratch, and you gotta like, get a certain amount of crops. Whoever does it faster wins, or something along those lines. I have no idea.
I don't even know. Like, is it too early to be saying that Evo is going to come back definitively next year? Like, there's no way to know that.
Well,
I know.
yeah,
I know when it comes to conventions, you have to book like months in advance and stuff like that. You have to secure, everything.
yeah.
However, just like it's just. I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but like actually in-person tournaments for Smash Bros. Is actually coming back. There are people are coming back and wearing masks and stuff like that, and it's now online. Smash is no longer a thing anymore as much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I'm actually considering going to a Smash tournament. There's a Smash tournament happening in October. There's actually three tournaments happening in October. One in Texas, and the other two I'd have to travel for. And I'm
We're
considering going.
we're in a very weird state of the pandemic now. Louis and I were talking about this before we went live. That there is like because after so many people got vaccinated and the COVID numbers went down, things started reopening all over the country, at least in the United States. And for the most part, things have gone back to normal. In California, still with mask restrictions and a few other restrictions, like occupancy restrictions and stuff like that. But more or less, you can do anything now, as long as you wear a mask. Still, even here, which is one of the more blue states where the restrictions tend to be, the standard for restrictions tends to be higher. Um, but it is interesting that now that the numbers are raising again, and in a lot of states, we're basically back to similar numbers that we had back in November, back in December. I do wonder whether we're going to see some level of pushback where some of these events that would otherwise happen end up not happening anyway. For instance, I think Jeff Keighley had announced that the Game Awards would be back to an in person event by December this year, and that happens in California. The way things are looking like in California right now, I would not be surprised if we go on a lockdown again and like in September or something. And if that does ends up not happening, so we'll see. I do really hope we get to see the return of in person events. I know there are a lot of events that are already returning. Stuff in Florida, stuff in Texas, and etc. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Fair enough. As far as everything else, the Xbox news, there's a lot of Xbox news on here. And by the way,
Yeah.
I'm a little sad to hear that there's no plans to bring Game Pass to like PlayStation or Nintendo Switch or whatever. People were banking on the Nintendo Switch one because of how
Yeah.
cozy and collaborative Nintendo and Microsoft are. But I'm also gotta say that I'm not surprised that Phil Spencer has been given access to the Steam Deck, and I'm also happy that he wants to integrate Xbox into it. And that's dope, and
Mhm.
it makes me consider at least think twice about maybe I should invest in a Steam Deck, especially with its
Mhm.
pretty reasonable price and its cool ass features. So yeah, but as far as everything else here, I mean, one last thing, Nintendo's well within the right, I guess, to go after ROMs, but don't go after the site. I mean, come on, just
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And Lewis, on that note, I'm just gonna let you take over the show and try to take us home with the next few segments. You got plenty of names to read, so have fun.
I hate you.
What are you buying?
So typically, when we know we're going to go on vacation, we read 2 weeks of releases before we go on vacation. However, we're a bitch and we didn't catch that when
Yep.
doing the new releases for episode 83. So I have to read 2 weeks worth right now to catch us up. And I guess we'll do two pick of the weeks because why not? But first up, Assassin's Creed Odyssey patch added a 60 frames per second support on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. That's cool. Also, a new version of Quake is back on PC and consoles. Let's see. Ooh, get rid of this stuff. Stupid pop-ups. Quake is back on PC and consoles, and there's no better time for it. Let's see. Just sort of skimming through. It doesn't see. It seems like they made a remaster where they supported visuals, upgraded visuals to 4K resolution. They have extra mission packs, some cross-play support. That's cool. 4-player split screen now. That's on all platforms. Wow. Okay, that's dope. That's some pretty good stuff there. It's we don't see that a lot.
Yeah. QuakeCon happened this week, so I wanted that to be represented in like some way in the podcast. That seemed to be the biggest thing that came out of there. So just giving it a shout here.
Apparently, there's a new Pokemon TV app on the Nintendo Switch. I have no idea what that is, but
It allows you to watch the Pokemon show on your Switch and all sorts of different videos and stuff. Yep.
wow,
Yeah.
that's if they had Netflix on the Switch, that wouldn't be a problem because Pokemon is on Netflix.
Dude, dude, where the fuck is Netflix on the Switch, man? I've been waiting for that ever since the Switch came out. I can't believe we still don't have it. The Switch has been out for 4.5 years. I tweeted about this like 2 years ago. Like, how the hell do we not still have Netflix on Switch? And my friend Steven, who I love him, and he's so into Nintendo, like he always defends Nintendo like on everything. He replied, "It's not Nintendo's fault, it's Netflix's." And I said, "I know. I'm not blaming Nintendo. I'm just pissed off that there's no Netflix on the Switch. Like, I don't care whose fault it is. Where the fuck is it?" And then it's funny because like in the beginning, I remember there were a lot of like Nintendo apologists that were like, like nobody would use Netflix on Switch. Bitch, I would. Give it to me. Like,
Yeah. Also, like the Hulu app on the Switch gets used and stuff like that by my nephews. Also, like just in general, the fact that the Netflix, disabled official support for the Netflix app on the 3DS and the Wii U, that means there's literally no Nintendo hardware that has
yeah.
Netflix support.
Yeah.
Anyways, as far as actual new releases here, let me move my window over here. All right. So for new releases, we have something called Arietta of Spirits. It comes out on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. It came out on August 20th. Next up was Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. Came out on August 20th on PS5 and PS4. Experience the expanded Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut featuring all additional content released to date. Forge a new path and wage an unconventional war for the freedom of Tsushima. And explore a new story on Iki Island. Okay. Next up is Madden NFL 22 on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Stadia, and PC. It came out August 20th. And next up was Aliens Fireteam Elite. It came out on PS5 Series, the PS4, X1, PC on August 24th. The blurb reads, set in the iconic Alien universe, Aliens Fireteam Elite is a cooperative third-person survival shooter that drops your fire team of hardened Marines into a desperate fight to contain the evolving xenomorph threat. Cool. Next up, I'm guessing this is going to be HOA or HOA.
I actually think it's called HOA.
Okay. HOA, PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, August 24th. And next up is I Expect to Die 2, The Spy and the Liar. Came out on PSVR, the Rift, the Quest, and the Vive. That is every VR platform under the sun. That's nice. It came out on August 24th. Next up is King's Bounty 2, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. And next up is Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2. Came out on PS5 on August 24th. And next up is Marvel Future Revolution, which is iOS and Android. It's a mobile game. I think they even showed it at Gamescom, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it came out yesterday on the 25th. Next up, also on the 25th, is Psychonauts 2. It's day one Game Pass, and it's out on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Oh, no series? Okay.
It is out on the series, but I'm guessing if it wasn't included here, that means it's like backwards
Backwards compatible,
compatibility.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably going to get a series patch later on. Rasputin, Aquato, trained acrobat and powerful young psychic, has realized his lifelong dream of joining the international psychic espionage organization known as the Psychonauts. But these psychic super spies are in trouble. Their leader hasn't been the same since he was kidnapped, and what's worse, there's a mole hiding in the headquarters. Raz must use his powers to stop the mole before they execute their secret plan to bring the murderous psychic villain Maligula back from the dead. Okay. That's a blurb. Next up is Proto Corgi on the Switch and PC August 26th. Next up is Spelunky on the Switch August 26th, and Spelunky 2 also on the 26th on the Switch. And we got that's it for the new releases for last week. So I'm now officially caught up. So I'll pause right here and say pick of the week is obviously Psychonauts 2.
Which, by the way, something I wanted to say about that. I started playing the original Psychonauts, but I only played it a little bit, so not enough to have much. Did I talk about it in the show before? That was like weeks ago, so I might have. Um, but I do want to say, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart on the PS5, Metacritic score 88. Psychonauts 2 on Xbox Series X, Metacritic score 88.
Ooh.
On PC, 89. So, Psychonauts 2 is apparently as good as Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So, might have a pretty good game here.
Sony, you can suck it. No. All right. Now, so that's the new releases for last week. So now we're gonna go ahead and talk about this week. First up is Baldo the Guardian Owls. Comes out on Friday the 27th, and it comes out on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and iOS. Good job. Inked, A Tale of Love comes out on Xbox One and PC on the 27th, which is Friday. Next up, didn't even know this was a thing. I mean, didn't know that this was coming out so soon, so just news to me.
No, it almost feels like a stealth drop.
Yeah, I know, right? No More Heroes 3. Seriously, where was the marketing push behind this release date? August 27th on the Switch. Fight your way to the top of the galactic superhero rankings. The legendary assassin Travis Touchdown makes his glorious return to the madness in No More Heroes 3 game, exclusively on the Nintendo Switch system. The evil Prince Fu and his band of alien assassins are itching to conquer Earth, and the only thing standing in their way is Travis Touchdown and his crew. Armed with his trusty beam katana, new tech, and some killer wrestling moves, Travis must battle to the top of the galactic superhero rankings and put an end to the invasion. Okay. Next up is Kiwi. That comes out on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC on the 31st. Also, Rustler comes out on PS4, Xbox Switch, PC on the 31st. And The Big Con, Xbox Series, Xbox One, and PC. And Lake, that is a generic ass title. Lake comes out on Xbox Series, Xbox One, PC on September 1st. And El Shaddai, Ascension of the Metatron, comes out on September 2nd on PC. Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous on PC on September 2nd. And finally, World Rally, I can't remember what the C stands for. It's WRC 10, comes out on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, PC on September 2nd. Was it World Racing Championship or something like that? I can't remember what it stands for, but it stands for something. But it's a car racing game. Dan, pick of the week has got to be No More Heroes.
Yeah, it's the only big name game that I know that is coming out in the week. I do want to ask you to do something, Lewis. Go up back to the game Hoa, and I wanted to click that link. And then there should be a button there that says official website. Go into the official website. Let's take a look at the trailer for that game, which should be up top on the official website for it. I
Okay.
actually saw this game in one of the indie showcases, I think, during E3. And it looks very like it almost it looks like if Ori and the Blind Forest in Studio Ghibli had a baby.
It does.
Um, and it actually looks like this looks really good. Like it looks like there's actually quite a lot of work that went into this. So I figured we could take a look at it together and
Yeah, I'm
maybe
watching the
appreciate
trailer
it.
and it looks dope.
Yeah.
Damn, you're right. It does look like a little bit of both like Ori and Studio Ghibli. Yeah, man. Wow.
Yeah. So maybe a nice one to take a look at.
And if you're watching
Uh,
the YouTube video, I had played literally the whole minute-long trailer on screen. So, yeah, it says April 2021. I'm guessing this is like the port. I guess I'm assuming.
yeah, it came out on the Switch on August 24th. I just pulled it up on the Switch
Ah,
store. And can I see how much it is? Or yeah, 14.99
damn.
on the Switch store. Yeah.
All right,
Cool.
I'll go ahead and move us along. Let's see. I believe I got to do Broke Gamer's Guide.
Got a selection of good things on sale, stranger.
All right, so for a Broke Gamer's Guide, it's actually pretty basically to the punch, like straight to the punch here. There's only got three things to talk about, and the first thing, as always, is gonna be the Epic Game Store, the free games of the week. I think there was actually a pretty good I downloaded I redeemed ukulele last week, so we didn't cover that because of the fact that, or actually no, we did because we told us like well it was gonna be free the following week, so I'm glad we did
We
that.
did, and we had like a discussion about whether that was free before or not. I said it was free on another platform. You said it was free on the Epic Store, and you were gonna go and look for a receipt so that you
Yeah.
could like show me off or something.
I did not look for
And
receipts.
yeah,
I'm too much of a lazy bitch. But maybe that can still be pending. Like we could still put a tack in that one. But as far as what's free right now is Saints Row the Third remastered. It is free for the week right
that
now.
was smart that they timed that with the new Saints Row announcement.
Nice. And also something called Automa Chef. Automa Chef. Yeah, I'm guessing that's an automated chef thing. You know what? Since we know about Saints Row, let's actually look at this one. I'm going to read this blurb. Welcome to Automa Chef, a resource management puzzler where you design kitchens, program machinery, and watch your genius come to life. It's time to engineer tomorrow's kitchen today. Oh, this does not sound fun at all. But okay, it's free. Next up, oh, and also something called Yoku's Island Express is going to be allegedly free next week.
That is a big indie game. That is, yeah.
Interesting. I'm just looking at the first screenshot and it looks like a pinball game. But anyways, we'll talk about that next week. And as far as the Xbox news, the Games with Gold was announced, and it is a very lackluster week. And even the fact that we don't have the announcement of PlayStation's September lineup is a win. It's already counted as an L for Xbox. So the free games for Xbox next month in September: Warhammer, Chaos Bane, all free all September long. The second half of September / the early half of October, something called Mulaka. And the only it's actually interesting. The Xbox 360 titles actually know their IP. Zone of the Enders HD collection comes as free for the first half of September, and Samurai Showdown 2 is the second half of September. And Samurai Showdown is a very storied fighting game franchise that's sort of niche, but it is what it is. So yeah, this is an L, but at least the 360's alright.
And you can kind of skip the next one actually, Lewis, because it's not really new stuff coming out, but it's just what they announced during the Gamescom showcase anyway.
Okay, cool. Then that's pretty much it for the show here. So I'll go ahead and play us out.
the game that song is from may or may not have been in our favorite 90s game lists. So you're going to have to go back and listen to that if you want to see it. But it is time to end. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Ready Press Play. Remember, you can reach the podcast at readyplaynotwork.com or simply at Ready Press Play on Twitter or TikTok. I'm on Twitter at the Del Lima and Lewis.
Chakalaka88.
That's right. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a review, tell your friends about the show, and all that good stuff. See you next time.
Peace.